Haidong! In this video, we're going to talk about Chakgum Chilban's put away, or in English, the 7th put away. This is going to be the one where you're actually going to be deflecting and rolling between your fingers. So this is going to be more or less a more advanced version of 4, right? So it's going through the fingers. But let's take a look at a few of the nuances of this. Briefly, there are 2 versions, right? So there's the older version. So again, this is at least before 2000, I want to say 13. So before that time, right? So before that time, we used to do this Chakgum a certain way, but now we're going to do it a little bit differently. So I'll first show you the new way, right? Because that's probably what you're going to see first. But I'll also show you the old way just because it teaches you something different. But regardless, let's take a look. If we remember at the end of the form, right? So we're in a focus, right? We're going to drop back into a bonsai as we block, right? So from this position, I'll just show you first. We're going to roll into a put away, right? So obviously roll back into normal grip, and then from there we're going to Chakgum. With this put away, we're going to do the same thing that we did with 4, right? So you're going to start off spinning between these 2 fingers, and then these 2, and eventually Vulcan grip, right? So what we're going to do here, again between these 2 is just a simple spin, right? But it's going to be going then here, and then Vulcan. I can't do the full Vulcan on that side, so drop. Going to bring up this way. So notice if I want to, I can almost like position it like this. I'm going to put between the next 2 fingers. It's really weird doing it slow into this grip. So again, a little bit different, right? So roll, first finger. So notice I can actually keep it here, right? So again, Vulcan grip, right? So let's get to that part first, right? So again, drop, use that momentum to get from these 2 fingers to these 2 fingers, right? So use that momentum to bring it here, and then let it drop through the finger. Once again, drop, rolling it through again your index and middle, and then rolling that between the middle and ring finger here. So again, 1, 2, 5. 1, 2, and keep trying that, right? So again, if you've learned 4, you should remember that one as well, right? So 4 forward looks a little bit weird, right? So bun, 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 right? Bun, bun, bun. So if you learn 4, just one more roll, right? So bun, bun, right? Bun, bun, bun. So from here, what I'd like you to practice is going from, again, the Vulcan. So what you want to do is get these 2 fingers, right? So again, your pointer and your middle. I want you to be able to wrap that back around into normal grip. So once again, 1, 2, Vulcan, normal, down. 1, 2, Vulcan, normal, down. 1, 2, Vulcan, normal, down. And eventually, it's going to turn into something like this, right? So notice you can actually do this from standstill, right? So you won't necessarily need to be like, right? Here, just drop, bun, 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 and then put away. So this is going to be the newer version of it, right? And there's a couple of ways you can actually practice that with, actually have a nice little PVC pipe that we can use as well. But again, rolling through the fingers, again, this, and then Vulcan, roll, roll, bang. Let's try it. I don't know if this is going to be helpful from the side, but let's try it. So drop, again, between these 2 fingers, here, and between these 2 fingers, here, and then switch down. Bun, 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 down. Bun, 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 down. And keep trying that. Making sense? A drill that you can have is, this can be in the screamer stick, it could just be a PVC pipe, it could be a stick. I would probably want it to be balanced. But just get used to the dexterity of it. So just practice again here, and just roll, and then just roll between the fingers, right? This way, and bounce back. So again, you can speed this up if you want to. It's not really going to help you that much. But it's just getting used to something going between your fingers like that. So again, if you start off, again, almost like normal grip here, you're going to roll it between, almost like think about rolling it around your index finger, and then rolling it around your middle. 1, 2, and then use the last 2 fingers to push it back and bring it back in this way. 1, 2, 3, bun, 1, 2, 3, bun, 1,
and you can keep going that way. What would be fun is also to do this with your left hand. I actually have not done that. That would be kind of fun. Although you're not going to necessarily do your put away with your left hand because that's what's actually going to be wiping the blade, right? Let's try it, right? So 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3. Let's try to keep going. And you can do the same thing, right? It should be kind of fun to go back and forth if you really want to do that. But this is just a nice drill, especially if it's nice and light. It's just something you can kind of do if you're bored or if you're just like watching television or something like that. With the sword, right, it's going to be the same idea, right? Now you're not going to stop it here and then roll it back. That's a really bad idea. But the idea is just keep the momentum going and then grab. Obviously you can start with a sword that doesn't have a guard or is not metal in case it does in fact drop and hit you in the foot. So start with like a screamer stick, or if you want to start with, again, like a stick anywhere or your mukam. This is not a bad way to get started. Now, I did talk about what the purpose of these were, right? So this is the newer version, right? So this is going to be working on your dexterity and your ability to continue. So obviously this is not going to have that much impact in terms of fighting, right? It's kind of like a nice gimmick they can kind of do. So if you're here, right, this part is where you're going to get that jerk to get the sword, the blood away, and then the rest of it is just going to keep going, right? So the idea of this is like, oh, like I just, beat all these people. Look how dexterous I am. I have complete control over my sword, and again, look what I can do. More than anything else, right? Now in the form, you can also think of it like you just push someone off, right? So they're trying to grab you, you're pushing them, and as you're getting rid of them, you're letting it come around. So again, that part is working on your dexterity, again, showing off your ability to, again, use your sword hand, right? But there's another version, right? So the older version of this worked on something a little bit different. Now, we're still going to get to the Vulcan grip, right? So if you're here, get to the Vulcan, right? But instead of coming back this way towards your face, you're going to let it drop this way into a reverse grip and start to put away. So what's the difference there, right? So again, getting to the Vulcan grip is the same thing. I stop, I kill the momentum, and then I drop into a reverse grip and then put the sword away. So what is that working on that the other one isn't, right? So this one is going to be working on, look how much control I have. I can have a really fascinating sword, stop it, and then put the sword away, right? Now this has a few things, again, this might be a reason why we switched over. So one reason is some people actually used to drop the sword, and especially when people started using it with a guard and a metal sword, wasn't good, right? But another reason is, let me bring that back up. Another reason is holding it upright and letting it stay this way is going to let the gore, again, come back into your sword, which is not what you want, right? So, bam, 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 ha-ha! You kind of like see the gore like, and then you kind of bring it back. Now, obviously this flick might be able to get more of it away, but again, the longer you keep it here, the weirder it is. The newer way, right, again, gets you back in the normal grip, gets you back into a position where you can strike, versus reverse grip is really only reserved for when you're really ready to put the sword away, like in 3 and 6, for instance. Although you could do some attacks from it on your left side, it's not going to be that strong. In terms of difficulty, I believe this is the most difficult one. Most of the future ones again have a more direct application. Again, some people might kind of like go to number 10 and be like, what's the purpose of that? But there are actually going to be a few techniques they can actually apply to it that make it a little bit more applicable. 7 is mostly just, again, look what I can do, right? Because again, the actual put away isn't going to be that much, like doesn't get that much gore again away from your blade. It doesn't, again, necessarily form any other function. Again, what I mentioned ever so briefly was the very end of the form, right? So allegedly we just finished here, focusing, so I might even be stabbing someone here. And again, if someone is coming in, so if I stabbed, they're grabbing, I can shove their body off and then do the put away, right? But again, that kind of like means this has a very weak application, right? So that might be like maybe cutting and then using the momentum with the sword away. But again, in general, this particular put away is again a mastery of a skill as opposed to a direct application, which is going to be very different from a lot of other put aways. Maybe with the exception of 4, which is also kind of just getting used to getting into reverse grip. But yeah, so I guess the drills, right? So as usual, so practice both ways, right? So practice, again, the dexterous way. Look how dexterous I am. Practice, oh, look how much control I have, and be able to stop and switch to reverse grip. So try both of those. Just be careful that you don't, like, obviously drop the blade on you. So I'd recommend probably don't start with a metal sword if this is brand new to you, but practice with a mukam, and then put a mukam with a guard on it, because that guard does change things up. And then eventually start with a metal sword, or if you're a traditionalist like I am, you can go straight to the metal sword, hurt yourself, but it's going to be a good hurt, right? But also think about potentially applications that I did not think of, right? So maybe this is doing something actually useful. I have heard a few things in the past that just don't jive well with me, right? So the idea of it blocking an arrow is something I've heard, like, haha, I am blocking arrows. It's like, maybe? like maybe that might be working, but very, very unlikely, right? Just because arrows, there are probably better ways to kind of not die from an arrow than be like, haha, and like kind of like doing this kind of thing. It's not going to be as effective. And with that, so again, remember to, again, stay safe, stay humble, right? So although this is a technique that's working on, oh, look how dexterous I am, oh, look how, how much control I have, still be humble about it, right? So like, simply do it, right? Do what needs to be done and put it away. And finally, also, keep training, right? So try these out. Now you might get tired after a while just because, again, if you're using a grip, again, these are working muscles and like grinding on areas that usually don't have that much, contact with the sword. So it might be a little bit strange for you, like especially if you're not used to using a wrapped sword, especially like the knots and stuff like that. Might do some, uncomfortable stuff to your fingers, but keep training with it. Haidong!